On her first day at the house, the daughter-in-law set boundaries for her mother-in-law. She said she was someone who valued personal boundaries. Therefore, after marriage, she wouldn't call her parents but would address them as uncle and aunt. She also didn't want to meet all the random relatives in the family, because to her, they were essentially strangers, especially her husband's older aunt, who immediately grabbed her arm when they met, making her very uncomfortable. So, she said it would be best not to see these relatives again, and that they should avoid contact for good. Facing the daughter-in-law's blatant insult, the relatives were furious. However, the woman heard this and agreed without hesitation. Just when the son and daughter-in-law thought they had her under control, the woman suddenly called them over. She said that in order to respect the daughter-in-law's boundaries, she also had some rules. Since the daughter-in-law kept saying the relatives were strangers, she couldn't accept any gift money from these strangers, especially the rude aunt who secretly gave the daughter-in-law a $50,000 red envelope. Someone who values boundaries like her would definitely return it. The woman then grabbed the money from her son and returned it to the relatives. She also publicly stated that from now on, the son and daughter-in-law should move out of the house, because the old couple didn't understand boundaries. Who knew when they might cross the daughter-in-law's boundaries? In fact, they shouldn't even eat together in the future. After all, mixing so many people's saliva together just wasn't respectful of boundaries. The woman's words left the son and daughter-in-law speechless. At this moment, they had no idea that the woman in front of them had been reborn. In her previous life, her husband suddenly had a heart attack and they rushed to the hospital. Desperate, she called her son for help, but he complained that she was disturbing their private life. Without waiting for her to finish, he hung up the phone. By the time the woman got her husband to the hospital, it was too late. Devastated, she stayed by his side all night. The next morning, her son called and asked why her husband hadn't picked up the child from school. With tears, she told him that her husband had passed away. The first thing he said was to complain about who would pick up the child now. Hearing this, the woman collapsed from anger. She never imagined that 30 years of sacrifice would lead to raising an ungrateful son. When she opened her eyes again, she found herself reborn on the day her son married the daughter-in-law. Reflecting on her tragic past, the woman decided to teach her daughter-in-law true boundaries this time. And so, the scene from the beginning unfolded. Facing her daughter-in-law's unreasonable demands, the woman fought fire with fire. Under the guise of boundaries, she took the opportunity to kick her son and daughter-in-law out. The daughter-in-law, hearing this, vowed that no matter what happened, she would never return. Relatives, worried about the family conflict, discreetly left. Seeing her exhausted husband, the woman felt immense guilt. In her previous life, her son and daughter-in-law, under the guise of boundaries, lazed around at home. When she kindly invited them to dinner, her son complained about her lack of boundaries disrupting their private space. From then on, she and her husband walked on eggshells, afraid to speak out. Meanwhile, the son and daughter-in-law enjoyed a life of living off them. The daughter-in-law constantly talked about boundaries but casually turned her husband's study into a closet. And the woman's beloved balcony was turned into a dog kennel. This time, reborn, the woman would not be so accommodating. To avoid repeating her past mistakes, she immediately decided to take her husband for a checkup. But unexpectedly, the son and daughter-in-law suddenly blocked her, warning her not to cause any more trouble. They knew she had always wanted to live with them. So today, they pretended to give in front of the relatives. Out of pity for her, they decided to let bygones be bygones and let her stay for now. Moreover, the daughter-in-law was pregnant. If the woman respected boundaries, they might even let her take care of the baby. Her husband, overjoyed, immediately wanted to buy supplements for the daughter-in-law, but the woman stopped him. She told him they were too old to take care of a child. If the daughter-in-law didn't want the baby, she should just have an abortion. Since the daughter-in-law had set the rules, both sides had to follow them. She gave her son one day to move out. Otherwise, she wouldn't hesitate to sever ties. The woman said this and left with her husband. After they left, the daughter-in-law vented all her frustration on her son. She scolded him for being a weakling and asked if he was really going to move out after getting so used to living in the house. Her son reassured her that everything was fine. He said he had a plan to punish the woman. This time, he would not only take back the gift money but also make her kneel and apologize. Meanwhile, the woman and her husband had arrived at the hospital. Thankfully, her husband's heart was fine after a timely checkup. To make up for the years of neglect, the woman took him to the mall to buy clothes. Without the burden of their son, they spent the whole day shopping. But when they returned home that night, their son suddenly stopped them and handed them a severance agreement to sign. It turned out this was the son's brilliant idea. He knew his mother valued family above all else, so he thought that once he asked for a severance, she would surely submit. What he didn't know was that he and the old couple weren't even blood relatives, so there was no such thing as severing ties. Her husband, unable to watch his wife suffer, urged the son not to act impulsively. He was willing to apologize on her behalf if it would calm the situation, but the son pushed further. He said if the woman wanted forgiveness, she had to kneel and apologize to the daughter-in-law. For the sake of family harmony, the husband reluctantly bent his knee. But at that moment, the woman grabbed him and slapped her son across the face. She immediately declared she would sign the agreement and demanded they leave her house at once.